Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. We are going to start with this listening test. And this test is good in a way because there are many multiple choice questions. At present in IELTS listening, they give you a lot of multiple choice questions in listening part 2 and listening part 3. So these two parts are the parts where you have multiple choice and matching. These two question types are very common. Part 1 and part 4, there you will get one word only. So there is no problem in part 1 and part 4, but the main issue is with part 2 and part 3. Anyways, let's get started. Part 1, questions 1 to 10, questions 1 to 4, complete the form below. Now we have a form which we need to complete, and then they say write one word and or a number. The question type is one word and or a number. So answer can be a word, a number, word plus number. Next is say Wayside Camera Club. Now Wayside is the name and Camera Club. Imagine there is a camera club, you go there, they have photography competitions or photography things, they teach you how to use the camera. So they have this Wayside Camera Club membership form. Now if you switch on your imagination and you start thinking that there is a camera club, there is this membership form, they will ask him the name, the club fee, right, what type of services they offer and all that. Next, name is already written, email address is already written. So you will listen to the audio very, casually until this point. And after that, when they say home address, and after home address, when they say 52 dash street. Now answer will come after 52 and before street. It's going to be the name of street. It can be like Pearl Street, Rose Street, name of street. And if the name is unusual, unique name, then they will spell it for you. If the name is normal name, then they will just expect you to write it. Otherwise, they will spell it to you. Now, remember, in the audio, you should know when the answer is about to come. So over here, when they say 52, right after 52 answer will come, and then after the answer there will be the word street. So let's start.
Part 1. You will hear a man talking to the coordinator of a photography club.
Hello, Wayside Camera Club. Breeder speaking.
Oh, hello. My name's Dan, and I'd like to join your club.
That's great, Dan. We have an application form. Would you like to complete it over the phone? Then you can ask any questions you might have.
Oh, yes, thanks.
Okay. So, what's your family name?
It's Green. Dan Green.
So, can I take your email address?
Yes, it's dan1068@market.com.
Thanks. And what about your home address?
Well, I'm about 10 miles away from your club in Peacetown. I live in a house there.
Okay. So what's the house number and street?
It's 52 Marrowfield Street.
Is that Marrowfield?
That's right.
Okay. Marrowfield, Marrowfield, and it's one word. If you by mistake you write Marrow Field, your right answer will be wrong. Okay, so like this there are 3 to 4 mistakes. In every test students make 3 to 4 careless mistakes, and 3 to 4 mistakes are enough to decrease your band by 1. That's important. Now let's go on. Heard about us. Where did they get to know about the club? Okay, heard about us. From a. It can be from a newspaper, from a something. A means answer will start with a non-vowel, right? Otherwise from something like from a radio, from a newspaper, from a friend, or anything like that. So please listen and answer.
And that's Peacetown, you said?
Uh-huh.
So, how did you hear about our club? Did you look on the internet?
I usually do that, but this time, Well, I was talking to a relative the other day and he suggested it.
Oh, is he a member too?
He belongs to another club, but he'd heard good things about yours.
Okay.
So, relative. He said usually I do it from online or internet, but this time my relative suggested your club. So correct answer is relative. Now don't change it. I mean relative should be relative. You cannot write relatives. Why not? Because they have written a. A means answer should be singular, one answer. Very good. Let's go on. Reason for joining. To enter competition. One reason is to enter competition. Now, to enter, to after to enter is a verb. It means answer to question number 3 is going to be another verb. To enter competition, to meet, to learn, to enjoy, to something. So, answer is going to be a verb and it will come after competitions.
So, what do you hope to get from joining?
Well, one thing that really interests me is the competitions that you have. I enjoy entering those.
Right. Anything else?
Well, I also like to socialize with other photographers.
That's great.
I also like to socialize with other photographers. So one thing is to enter competitions. Second, he said, I also like to socialize. Now, to is already there. Answer is socialize. And we have two spelling of socialize. One is like socialise, that is British. And second is lize, that is American. You can write any one of them. Your answer will be correct. Okay. All right, let's go on. Type of membership. Dash membership £30. Now, there may be a membership which costs £50. There may be a membership which costs £10. That will not be your answer. Your answer is like, you go and say 30 rupees wali kulfi de dein. He has 51 also. He has 10 rupees kulfi also. But you are interested in 30 rupees kulfi. So answer is going to be something like full, like dash membership, £30. Maybe bronze membership, silver membership, or anything like that.
So, what type of membership would you like?
What are the options?
It's £30 a year for full membership, or £20 a year if you're an associate.
I think I'll go for the full membership then.
That's a good idea, because you can't vote in meetings with an associate membership.
Okay, so full. Membership is wrong. If you write membership with full, your answer will be absolutely wrong. Correct answer is full. And the second type was associate. And for that, the charges were $20. Okay. Now, let's go on. Questions 5 to 10. Complete the table below. Write no more than 2 words. Now, this time we have maximum 2 words and minimum 1 word, and there is no option of any number. Okay. Photography competitions. Title of competition. Question number 5. And you can see it is in inverted commas. This is going to be the title of competition. So for the title, when there is inverted comma, they use the word it is called, it is named, or the first competition is named, it is called, and then there will be the name of that competition. So let's see the title.
If I could just find out a bit more about you.
Okay.
So, you said you wanted to compete. Have you ever won any photography competitions?
Not yet, but I have entered 3 in the past.
Oh, that's interesting. So why don't you tell me something about those? Let's start with the first one.
Well, the theme was entitled Domestic Life.
I see.
The theme was entitled. Entitled means title of competition. The theme was entitled. And what will be the answer? The answer is domestic life. How do you spell domestic? D-O-M-E-S-T-I-C. Very good. Domestic life. And again, remember, whenever there are any inverted commas in IELTS listening or IELTS reading, so it is entitled, it is called, it is named, anything like that. Then you see there is no question, so the audio will continue, right? And then the second title of competition is Beautiful Sunsets. Now in the audio, when they speak the word beautiful sunsets, now you will be alert again, because after that, instructions. Scene must show some. Now imagine you are taking the photo of sunset, right? The title is Beautiful Sunset. Scene must show some. It can be scene must show some birds, like sun is setting and there are birds. Scene must show something like that, clouds, or maybe mountains. Or scene must show some trees, like there are trees and behind the trees sun is setting. So any object which should be in the picture will be your answer. Okay, let's see.
So it had to be something related to the home?
Yeah. I chose to take a photo of a family sitting round the dinner table having a meal. And, I didn't win, but I did get some feedback.
Oh, what did the judges say?
That it was too busy as a picture.
Aha. So it was the composition of the picture that they criticised?
That's right. And once they'd told me that, I could see my mistake.
So what was the theme of the second competition?
Well, my university was on the coast, and that area gets a lot of beautiful sunsets. So that was the theme.
Oh, sunsets. That's a great theme.
Yes, the instructions were to capture the clouds as well. It couldn't just be blue sky and a setting sun.
Sure, because they give you all those amazing pinks and purples.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's the right answer? Clouds. Okay, the instructions were to capture the clouds, not just the sun and the sky. So correct answer is clouds. Now over here, if you write cloud, it will be wrong. Why? Because some means they should be plural, right? That is the reason. Question number 7. The dash was wrong. Now with that photo, something was wrong. Let's see. Focus was wrong or anything like that.
And I thought I'd done that well, but the feedback was that I should have waited a bit longer to get the shot.
I see. So the timing wasn't right.
Yes, I took it too soon, basically.
I took it too soon. The timing wasn't right. Now listen, for wrong they use the word wasn't right. Timing wasn't right means timing was wrong. Listen again.
And I thought I'd done that well, but the feedback was that I should have waited a bit longer to get the shot.
I see. So the timing wasn't right.
Yes, I took it too soon, basically.
Timing wasn't right. So wasn't right is equal to wrong, right? Timing will be the right answer. Timing. Okay, now question number 8 is the title of competition. Again, inverted commas, and we have another title. Let's see.
And then the third competition I entered was called Animal Magic.
Well, that's a difficult subject.
I know.
Okay, the third competition I got was called Animal Magic. Okay, so correct answer for that is Animal Magic, 2 words. Okay, next instructions. Scenes must show dash. Now for beautiful sunset, scene must show clouds, right? For Animal Magic, scenes must show something. Let's see what that is.
I had to take hundreds of shots.
I'm sure, because animals move all the time.
That's what we had to show. There had to be some movement in the scene.
There have to be some movement in the scene. So, scene must show. For must show, they use the word have to. There have to be some movements in the scene. Now, what is the answer? Movement. Don't write moment. M-O-M-E-N-T-S. Okay, M-O-V-E-M-E-N-T. Movement. And that's it. Scene must show movement or all that. Okay, now we've got... question number 10. Photograph was too dash. Underline the word too. T-O-O-2. For too, they use various words. For example, photograph was too big. Photograph was very big. photograph was a bit bigger, a bit too, very, quite. For example, photograph was very small. Photograph was quite small. Quite, quite. Okay, all these words are the synonyms of TOO2. Now let's see, they will speak a synonym and right after that they will be the answer.
I got a great shot of a fox in the end, but I took it at night and, well, I suspected that it was a bit dark, which is what I was told.
It was a bit dark. So the photograph was too dark. Okay, now listen, for photograph, first they've used the word photograph, then they use the word it was. It means photograph. It was a bit dark. Okay, good job. Now, attacks. Okay guys, whenever we have a question type that is double multiple choice questions, most important thing is not to look for the right answer. Most important thing is that out of 5 options, 3 options which are wrong, you have to identify them and you need to eliminate them, because once you identify wrong options in multiple choice questions, your answer will never be wrong. Second problem is students often guess. When they know answer is 2 options out of 5, they guess any 2 options and then they go on. So please avoid guessing. Your answers should be based on your understanding and elimination of wrong answers. Okay. Now we've got questions 11 and 12 and these are double multiple choice questions. Which 2 warnings, underline 2 warnings, does Dan give about picking mushrooms? Now mushrooms, you know, in Chinese dishes they use mushrooms. Okay, in soup also they use mushrooms. So 2 warnings Dan gave about picking Chinese mushrooms. Now what are those 2 warnings, right? Option A, don't pick more than 1 variety. Now by the way, see, with every option there is don't. Whenever we give a warning, we say don't smoke here, don't waste your time, don't touch this plant, right? So it's a warning. So the first warning is don't pick more than 1 variety. Underline more than 1 variety. And you know don't already there. More than 1 variety. It means at one time you should pick 1 variety only. Don't pick more than 1 variety. 1 variety means more than 1 species of mushrooms. Don't pick mushrooms near busy roads. So underline busy roads. And imagine, don't pick near busy road. Like for example, there is that motorway and from the sides of motorway you are trying to pick the mushrooms. It can be dangerous. The traffic is coming and all that. Option C, don't eat mushrooms given to you. So given to you, someone says I picked a mushroom, here you go, and you eat it without any knowledge and all that. So given to you means a friend gives you a mushroom or a neighbor gives you a mushroom and you don't know whether it is suitable for eating or not. Next, don't eat mushrooms while picking them. Underline while picking them. Like you pick a mushroom and say, wow, this is so fresh, and you start eating. Like, you know, sometimes you pick carrots and you clean them and you start eating. So he says while picking them. First you take them home, wash them, check and all that. Next, old mushrooms. Old mushrooms mean which is lying in your refrigerator, like Eid ka gosht. You can eat that. Yeah, my friend Yasin, one day before Eid ul-Azha, he was cleaning his refrigerator. From last year Eid, he found 2 packets. They were stuck in his refrigerator. He said, "Sada te pichli Eid da nahi mukya, agli Eid bhi aa gayi." Okay, so you just need to see old mushrooms. Old means which were picked 3-4 days before, or which were in the refrigerator 3-4 days. Now, 2 type of mushrooms he will say don't, and other 3 types he will say yes you can. Right? Now you're going to see which ones you are not supposed to eat. And there will be 2 options.
Part 2. You will hear an expert on picking wild mushrooms called Dan talking on the radio.
This evening, we're delighted to welcome Dan Beagle, who's just written a book on looking for and finding food in the wild. He's going to tell us everything we need to know about picking wild mushrooms.
Thank you very much. Well, I need to start by talking about safety.
You really need to know what you're doing because some mushrooms are extremely poisonous. Having said that, once you know what to look for, it's really worth doing for the amazing variety of mushrooms available, which you can't get in the shops. But of course, you have to be very careful, and that's why I always say you should never consume mushrooms picked by friends or neighbours. Always remember that some poisonous mushrooms look very similar to edible ones, and it's easy for people to get confused. The other thing to avoid is mushrooms growing beside busy roads, for obvious reasons. But nothing beats the taste of freshly picked mushrooms. Don't forget that the ones in the shops are often several days old and past their best.
B and? No. C and? E. Okay, that's the wrong answer. Correct answer is option B and option C. I'll play it again, don't worry. Option B is don't pick mushrooms near busy roads. He said avoid picking mushrooms near busy roads. And option C, don't eat mushrooms given to you, neighbor or friend and all that. So B and C will be the right answers. Please listen to it again.
Part 2.
For and finding food. Oh, about
Well, I need to start by talking about safety. You really need to know what you're doing because some mushrooms are extremely poisonous. Having said that, once you know what to look for, it's really worth doing for the amazing variety of mushrooms available.
Okay, he says once you know what you are looking for, and then there is an amazing variety available. Option A, don't pick more than one variety. He doesn't say. He says there is a variety available. Once you know which mushroom is good, you can pick any variety. So option A is wrong. Now come to option C.
Which you can't get in the shops. But of course, you have to be very careful. And that's why I always say you should never consume mushrooms picked by friends or neighbours.
You should never consume. Consume means eat. Mushrooms given by a friend or picked by a friend or neighbor. Option C, don't eat mushrooms given to you. For given to you, we use the word friend or neighbor. Okay, so second correct answer is option C, first correct answer.
Always remember that some poisonous mushrooms look very similar to edible ones, and it's easy for people to get confused. The other thing to avoid is mushrooms growing beside busy roads.
The other thing to avoid, mushrooms growing by busy roads. So don't pick mushrooms near busy roads. These two are the right answers. Okay. Now we go on. Questions 13 and 14. Choose two letters A to E. Which two ideas about wild mushrooms does Dan say are correct? Underline two ideas and underline correct. Now it means three ideas are incorrect, which you have to identify, and two ideas are correct, which will be your answer. Okay. Now for example, mushrooms should always be peeled before eating. Now underline peeled before eating. Like orange, you peel before eating. Banana, you peel before eating. So he says peel, and if he says you can eat it raw without peeling, it'll not be the answer. But if he says you should peel, right? For example, say two ideas which are correct. If say people say you should peel the mushrooms before eating, and I think that's right. And if he says that's wrong, you can even eat without peeling, there is no harm. So this is what you need to check. Option B, mushrooms eaten by animals may be unsafe. So mushrooms eaten by animals unsafe. For example, if a cow can eat a certain type of mushroom, it does not mean that is suitable for you also. Like you can say, bakri kha sakti, to main kyun nahi kha sakta, main to bakra hoon, right? Okay, anything like that. Next, option C, cooking destroys toxins in mushrooms. Like some of the mushrooms, they have toxins. In the cooking process, cooking destroys toxins. Option D, brightly colored mushrooms can be edible. Underline brightly colored, edible. Edible means suitable to eat, right? Which is suitable for human consumption. We call it edible. Okay, now edible and eatable. Eatable is anything that human can eat, and edible is which is suitable for human body, which does not have any poison or anything like that. Okay, like we use the word edible oil. Edible oil is oil which is fine for human body. Next, all poisonous mushroom, bad smell. So underline poisonous mushrooms, bad smell. All poisonous mushrooms, bad smell. So out of 5, he's going to talk about 2 theories which are correct and 3 theories are incorrect. So you need to eliminate those 3 theories.
There are certain ideas about wild mushrooms that it's important to be aware of. Don't listen to people who tell you that it's only okay to eat mushrooms that are pale or dull. This is completely untrue. Some edible mushrooms are bright red, for example. Personally, I prefer mushrooms cooked, but it won't do you any harm to eat them uncooked in salads. It's not necessary to peel them. Another thing you should remember is that you can't tell if a mushroom is safe to eat by its smell. Some of the most deadly mushrooms have no smell and taste quite nice, apparently. Finally, just because deer or squirrels eat a particular mushroom doesn't mean that you can.
B and D. Okay. Correct answers are option D. Brightly colored mushrooms can be edible. That idea is correct. Okay. And second correct answer is mushrooms eaten by animals may be unsafe. And for animals, he used the word deer and squirrel. That deer can eat or squirrel can eat does not mean you can eat that also. Now please follow me again. I play this audio.
There are certain ideas about wild mushrooms that it's important to be aware of. Don't listen to people who tell you that it's only okay to eat mushrooms that are pale or dull. This is completely untrue. Some edible mushrooms are bright red, for example.
Okay, some edible mushrooms are bright red, for example. So option D, brightly colored mushrooms can be edible. For brightly colored, he used the word bright red. Okay, so first correct answer is D. Now please come to option C.
Personally, I prefer mushrooms cooked, but it won't do you any harm to eat them uncooked.
He did not mention anything about toxins. He said, personally, I prefer cooked, but you can eat uncooked as well. After this, now please come to option A.
Salads. It's not necessary to peel them.
It's not necessary to peel them. So option A, peel before eating. He said it's not necessary. Now come to option E.
Another thing you should remember is that you can't tell if a mushroom is safe to eat by its smell.
You can't tell by its smell. So when you cannot tell by its smell, all poisonous mushrooms have a bad smell. How come? When he said you cannot tell from the smell, so it does not, it means all poisonous mushrooms have a bad smell. It's not correct.
Some of the most deadly mushrooms have no smell.
Some of the most deadly mushrooms have no smell. Here they've mentioned bad smell, but in the audio he says no smell. Okay, now let's go on.
And
now we've got option B.
Taste quite nice, apparently. Finally, just because deer or squirrels eat a particular mushroom doesn't mean that you can.
Okay, deer or squirrel can eat doesn't mean you can. You means human, right? So mushrooms eaten by animals may be unsafe. Okay, now we go on. Questions 15 to Yasin. We'll go there. Questions 15 to 20. Choose the correct letter A, B, or C. Now we've got 6 multiple choice questions, and have you noticed part 2, all multiple choice questions? This may happen. What advice does Dan, now this Dan is still there, Punjabi Dan. What advice does Dan give about picking mushrooms in parks? Now you go for mushroom picking in parks. For example, one day you decide to go to Racecourse Park or Jello Park to pick mushrooms. So what advice does he give? Choose wooded areas. Wooded areas are where there are so many trees and there is shade down there, because mushrooms are grown in shaded places. So choose wooded area. Wooded area means a lot of trees and there is shade there. Second, don't disturb wildlife. Wildlife means other animals and all that. And get there early. Get there early means you need to go there early in the morning. Otherwise, birds will eat, animals will eat, and all that. So, what is his advice? Let's see.
Of course, mushroom picking is associated with the countryside. But if you haven't got a car, your local park can be a great place to start. There are usually a range of habitats where mushrooms grow, such as playing fields and wooded areas. But you need to be there first thing in the morning, as there's likely to be a lot of competition. Not just from people, but wildlife too. The deer often get the best mushrooms in my local park.
So, you need to do it the first thing in the morning. First thing in the morning means get there early. He said you can go to wooded areas, but he did not say that only go to wooded areas. Option B, don't disturb wildlife. He did not talk about disturbance. He said there is the wildlife like deer. They also pick mushroom. So if you go there early, then you can just pick it easily. Correct answer is C.
Of course, mushroom picking is associated with the countryside. But if you haven't got a car, your local park can be a great place to start. There are usually a range of habitats where mushrooms grow, such as playing fields and wooded areas.
Okay, these are the habitats, playing fields, wooded areas and all that. But he does not say that you go there.
But you need to be there first thing in the morning.
You need to be there first thing in the morning. That is, get there early. Now let's see disturbing wildlife.
As there's likely to be a lot of competition. Not just from people, but wildlife too.
Okay, competition not just from people but wildlife too. He did not say don't disturb wildlife. He said wildlife can also pick mushrooms. Question number 16. Dan says it is a good idea for beginners too. Now those who are beginners and they want to go for mushroom picking, what should they do? Option A, app, mushroom app. In the mobile phone there is an app, so they can use mushroom app. Maybe take a photo of mushroom and app will tell you whether it is poisonous or not. Option B, join a group. And option C, take a reference book. Like there is a mushroom book, you take the book with you, you pick a mushroom and see the picture of that mushroom and then see. So if you use app, A will be the right answer. If you join a group, B will be the right answer. And if you need to use a book, C will be the right answer.
If you're a complete beginner, I wouldn't recommend going alone or relying on photos in a book, even the one I've written. There are some really good phone apps for identifying mushrooms, but you can't always rely on getting a good signal in the middle of a wood. If possible, you should go with a group led by an expert. You'll stay safe and learn a lot that way.
Okay, so option B, join a group. You will stay safe and all that. What does he say about mobile app, mushroom app? You cannot get signals. And he said, don't take a book. Even my book is there, but he said, don't take the book. So it's not the right answer. Correct answer is B. See that unless you identify the wrong answers, it's hard to find the right answer. They will say a word book, you will think C is the right answer. They will say a word app, you will say A is the right answer. Question number 17. What does Dan say is important for conservation? Conservation means to protect wildlife and species of plants and birds and all that. So what does Dan say for conservation? Option A, Select only fully grown mushrooms. So only fully grown mushrooms. Right? When you go to pick any fruit, they say only pick fully grown, means like not the other one. Option B, picking limited amount, means don't pick more than your need. For example, if you can eat 4 to 5 mushrooms, pick 4 or 5. So limited amount. And option C, avoiding areas where rare mushroom species grow. So avoid areas, rare mushroom. Rare means which are just few left in the world. So don't pick them. Okay, let's see. What is important for conservation? Conservation means for the protection of mushrooms. What is important?
Conservation is a really important consideration, and you must follow a few basic rules. You should never pick all the mushrooms in one area. Collect only enough for your own needs. Be very careful that you don't trample on young mushrooms or other plants. And make sure you don't pick any mushrooms that are endangered and protected by law.
Okay, see, he talked about all 3 options. Correct answer is C, B, A. All right, you decide again. I play this one again.
Conservation is a really important consideration, and you must follow a few basic rules. You should never pick all the mushrooms in one area.
You should never pick all the mushrooms in one area. What does it mean? Picking a limited amount of mushrooms. You should never pick all the mushrooms in one area. Okay, like sometimes people go crazy, get everything. Now come to option A.
Collect only enough for your own needs. Be very careful that you don't trample on young mushrooms.
Okay, be very careful that you don't trample. Trample means paun de dena on young mushrooms. Option A, selecting only fully grown mushrooms. He's not saying select them. He said don't trample them. So basically trampling on young mushrooms, right? Next, we've got option C, avoiding areas where rare mushroom species grow.
Or other plants. And make sure you don't pick any mushrooms that are endangered and
Okay, make sure you don't pick any mushroom that are endangered. He did not talk about areas. He said avoiding areas where rare mushroom species grow. I mean, area means don't go to that area, but he said don't pick the mushroom which is endangered one. So option C is avoiding areas. It's quite tricky. Once you solve many tests, then you will understand their tricks, okay? Now we go on. According to Dan, some varieties of wild mushrooms are in decline. So wild mushroom is the mushroom which is grown in the wild naturally, okay? So some varieties are in decline because there is, now what is the reason? Reason A, huge demand from restaurants. Underline huge demand, restaurants. Option B, lack of rain. That's it. So they are in decline because of lack of rain. And option C, building developments. Like, they are converting wooded areas into housing societies. They are cutting down plants and all that. So building developments. Now, some varieties of wild mushrooms are in decline. What is the reason? If the reason is demand, huge demand from restaurants, A will be the right answer. If the reason is lack of rain, B will be the right answer. And if the reason is housing authorities or building developments, then C will be the right answer.
There's been a decline in some varieties of wild mushrooms in this part of the country. Restaurants are becoming more interested in locally sourced food like wild mushrooms. But the biggest problem is that so many new houses have been built in this area in the last 10 years. And more water is being taken from rivers and reservoirs because of this, and mushroom habitats have been destroyed.
C will be the right answer. He said the biggest problem is houses and all that. So it's not lack of rain, it's not huge demand and all that. C will be the right answer. Question number 19, Dan says that when storing mushroom, people should, now how to store? Like you bring it from outside, you need to wash it, put it in the refrigerator and all that. Option A, keep them in fridge no more than 2 days. So underline in fridge no more than 2 days. No more than 2 years, huh, Yasin? Yeah, no more than 2 days. This is about mushroom, not nikka and vadda. Yeah. Option B, keep them in a brown bag in a dark room. Underline brown bag, dark room. And option C, leave them for a period after washing. So leave after washing. Wash them, leave them. That is option C. Keep them in fridge no more than 2 days. Now if he says you can keep them in fridge for 2 weeks, A will not be the right answer. Option B, brown bag. If he says you can put it in any bag and he does not specify color, then B will not be the right answer. And option C, if he says you can wash them and use them, it means you don't need to leave them. So let's say...
Anyway, a word of advice on storing mushrooms. Collect them in a brown paper bag, and as soon as you get home, put them in the fridge. They'll be fine for a couple of days, but it's best to cook them as soon as possible. After washing them really carefully first, of course.
So, he said after washing them carefully, of course, but he did not say that after washing them, leave them for a period. He said you can store them in refrigerator for a couple of days. Couple of days means no more than 2 days. So correct answer is A. Please listen again.
Anyway, a word of advice on storing mushrooms. Collect them in a brown paper bag, and as soon as you get home, put them in the fridge.
Okay, he did not say put them in a dark room. He said collect them in brown paper bag. Brown paper bag is same khaki kagaz ka bag, right? And put them in the fridge. He did not use the word dark room. So those who understand brown bag, B is the right answer. But with brown bag, they should be dark room also, but he did not mention dark room. That is why it is not B.
They'll be fine for a couple of days, but it's best to cook them.
Okay, they'll be fine for a couple of days. Means keep them in the fridge for no more than 2 days. And option C?
As soon as possible. After washing them really carefully first, of course.
Okay, after washing them, you can cook them. But he did not say leave them after washing. Now we've got last question, question number 20. What does Dan say about trying new varieties of mushrooms? So, underline new varieties of mushrooms. Experiment with different topics, different recipes. So, if there is a new variety, experiment them with different recipes. Option B, expect some to have a strong taste. Underline expect strong taste. Like, you know, lemon has a strong taste, sour and strong sour taste. Orange does not have that strong sour taste. So strong taste means if it is bitter, very much bitter. If it is sweet, very much sweet. That is what we call strong taste. Next we've got cook them for a long time. Right? Like he's doing with his bakras. Cook them for a long time. 45 minute ka pressure cooker lagana hai. Something like that. So, you know, mushrooms, do you think we need to cook them for a long time? I mean, they're already very soft and all that. Yeah, not like, yeah, see, this year you got camel's meat also, yeah? Okay, so let's see question number 20.
So, everybody knows what a mushroom tastes like, right? Well, you'll be surprised by the huge variety of wild mushrooms there are. Be adventurous. They're great in so many dishes. Stir-fries, risottos, pasta. But just be aware that some people can react badly to certain varieties, so it's a good idea not to eat huge quantities to begin with.
Okay. He mentioned this dish, that dish, risotto, fries, this and that. Correct answer is option A. Experiment with different recipes. He said expect some to have a strong taste. Some have strong taste and people don't like. Just listen.
So, everybody knows what a mushroom tastes like, right? Well, you'll be...
Okay, everybody knows what a mushroom tastes like, but he did not say strong taste. He said everybody knows what a mushroom tastes like.
Surprised by the huge variety of wild mushrooms there are. Be adventurous. They're great in so many dishes. Stir-fries, risottos, pasta.
Yeah, these are different recipes. Stir fries, risotto, pasta.
But just be aware that some people can react badly to certain varieties. So it's a good idea.
Some people can react badly to certain variety, but he did not say strong taste. He said people know how it tastes, right? Okay. All right, part 3 and 4 more multiple choice questions here. Now this time we've got double multiple choice questions. Listening part 3, questions 21 to 30. Questions 21 and 22. Choose 2 letters A to E. Which 2 opinions about Luddites? Now we don't know what Luddites are. Yeah, it's not Luddi or Ludo, Luddites. They will tell us in the audio, by the way. If they use any unusual word like this, they will tell us. 2 opinions about Luddites. Do the students express? Total, there are 5 opinions. Out of 5 opinions, 3 opinions are wrong and 2 opinions are right. So, option A, actions ineffective. Underline the words actions ineffective. I mean, whatever they did, it did not impact. It had no effect. That is option A. Still influential today, Luddites, whoever Luddites are, still influential today means even today they have impact on society and people and all that. Option C, received unfair criticism. People criticize them. Now, if the criticism was fair, this is not the right answer. And if people criticize them for no reason means unfair criticism. Option C, proved right. Now, if Luddites proved right, this is the right answer. And if they say later on they proved wrong, later on they realized they were wrong, then this will not be the right answer. Okay? Option E, understandable attitude. Understandable attitude means an attitude that you understand. For example, you are hungry and you are not given your meal on time and you become angry. This is understandable attitude. Ununderstandable is what? You are hungry, food is on the table, you are eating and still you are shouting and all that. So that is ununderstandable. Like, sometimes Mr. Yasin's father, he says, "Tu meri samajh se nahi aa raha." Right? So, "Tu samajh mein nahi aa raha," what does it mean? Ununderstandable attitude. And he says the same thing to his wife also. Ununderstandable attitude. Got the point? Yeah, I'm sorry, Yasin, I have to use some practical examples. So that's important for me. Now let's see 2 opinions about Luddites and students express. First of all, we have to see who the hell were these Luddites and all that. Let's check.
Part 3. You will hear 2 business students discussing automation and the future of work.
That seminar yesterday on automation and the future of work was really good, wasn't it? Looking at the first industrial revolution in Britain in the 19th century and seeing how people reacted to massive change was a real eye-opener.
Yes. It was interesting to hear how people felt about automation then and what challenges they faced. I didn't know that first started with workers in the textile industry.
With those protesting workers called the Luddites, destroying their knitting machines because they were so worried about losing their jobs.
Yes, and ultimately they didn't achieve anything. And anyway, industrialization created more jobs than it destroyed.
Yes, that's true. But it probably didn't seem a positive thing at the time. I can see why the Luddites felt so threatened.
I know. I'm sure I would have felt the same.
Alright, part 3 came and went so quickly and you are thinking what is the right answer, what should be the answer and all that. Alright, in actual exam they will not play the audio second time, but I'm just doing it because I'm teaching you. Listen
Part
to the
3. You will hear 2 business students discussing automation and the future of work.
That seminar yesterday on automation and the future of work was really good, wasn't it? Looking at the first industrial revolution in Britain in the 19th century
And seeing how people reacted to massive change was a real eye-opener.
Yes. It was interesting to hear how people felt about automation then and what challenges they faced. I didn't know that first started with workers in the textile industry.
With those protesting workers called the Luddites.
Okay, those protesting workers from the textile industry, they were called Luddites. Now what happened? Before that, there was all manual work. And when the machines came, people were threatened. They thought we would lose the job, and they broke all the machines and they said we are going to lose our jobs and all that. So those protesting workers were Luddites. Now, let's see.
Destroying their knitting machines because they were so worried about losing their jobs.
Yes, and ultimately they didn't achieve anything.
Ultimately, they didn't achieve anything. Which option? Option A. Their actions were ineffective. Ultimately, they didn't achieve anything. Now, didn't achieve anything and ineffective action, right? That is the first right answer. So they were worried because of machines, they would lose their job.
And anyway, industrialization created more jobs than it destroyed.
Yeah.
Okay, industrialization created more jobs than they destroyed. Now tell me, their attitude is understandable or ununderstandable? I mean, they were thinking that because of machines, their jobs will be threatened. But industrialization created more jobs. So whatever they did was not right. Ununderstandable means their attitude was wrong. Okay, so second correct answer is option E.
Yes, that's true. But it probably didn't seem a positive thing at the time.
Okay, it didn't seem a positive thing at a time. There is no option about that. Influential today, no, not mentioned. They were proved right. Yes, it didn't seem a positive thing at that time. Now, option D, they were proved right. But she said it wasn't a positive thing at that time, so it's not option D.
I can see why the Luddites felt so threatened.
I know. I'm sure I would have felt the same.
Okay, so correct answers are option A and option E. Now we've got questions 23 and 24. Choose two letters A to E. Which two predictions, underline the word two predictions, about future of work, underline future of work. Two predictions, future of work, students doubtful about. Now about two things they are doubtful, encircle the word doubtful. And about three things they are sure that this will happen. So doubtful about. Option A, work more rewarding, or in other words, more rewarding work. Right? Two predictions, future of work, the work will be more rewarding. More rewarding means you will get more benefits, more salaries and all that. Option B, unemployment will fall. Now, unemployment will fall if they are doubtful about it. Doubtful means I'm not sure, I don't know, perhaps, maybe, right? So that is going to be the right answer. Employment will fall, unemployment. And if they say unemployment will increase, this is going to be the opposite one. People will want to delay retiring. Underline delay retiring. The age of retirement is normally 60 years. So sometimes maybe 65 or 70 and all that. Delay retiring. And option D, working hours shorter. Working hours shorter. For example, now 9 to 5. Maybe in future 9 to 2. Working hours shorter. And option E, people will change jobs more frequently. People change jobs frequently. Means 1 year you are doing one job, second year you are doing another job, then you are doing another job and all that. Now two things where students are doubtful. Those two things will be your right answers.
The discussion about the future of work was really optimistic for a change. I like the idea that work won't involve doing boring, repetitive tasks, as robots will do all that. Normally, you only hear negative stuff about the future.
Bit too optimistic, don't you think? For example, I can't see how people are about to have more leisure time when all the evidence shows people are spending longer than ever at work.
No, that's true. And what about lower unemployment? I'm not so sure about that.
Perhaps in the long term, but not in the foreseeable future.
And And I expect most people will be expected to work until they're much older, as everyone's living much longer.
That's already happening.
So, correct answers. See? Allah se maafi mangiyega, aisa test na aaye. Right? In actual, but this is also Cambridge IELTS from Cambridge book and all that. ठीक है, लेकिन कुछ ज़रूरी नहीं है कि आपको ये वाला टेस्ट आएगा. You can have simpler tests also. So if the test is putha, it's like this. Okay, don't worry. Now, what are the right options? Option B and C. B and D. Okay, that's right. Correct answer is option B for boy and D for doctor. Now, let's do it again.
The discussion about the future of work was really optimistic for a change. I like the idea that work won't involve doing boring, repetitive tasks, as robots will do all that.
Okay, work will be boring and repetitive tasks. So option A, work will be more rewarding. She didn't say that. She said work will be boring and people will do repetitive tasks. Okay?
Normally, you only hear negative stuff about the future.
Bit too optimistic, don't you think? For example, I can't see how people are about to have more leisure time when all the evidence shows people are spending longer than ever at work.
Okay, I can't see how people will have more leisure time when I can see people are spending more time at work. Working hours will be shorter. He says working hour will be longer. He's doubtful about it. He's doubtful. He says, I don't think it is going to happen. Working hours will be longer.
Can't see how people are about to have more leisure time when all the evidence shows people are spending longer than ever at work.
No, that's true. And what about lower unemployment? I'm not so sure about that.
What about unemployment? I'm not so sure about that.
No, that's true. And what about lower unemployment? I'm not so sure about that.
What about lower unemployment? Lower unemployment means unemployment will fall. And she said, I'm not so sure about that. I'm not so sure means doubtful. Okay, so second correct answer is option B.
Perhaps in the long term, but not in the foreseeable future.
Perhaps in the long term, but not in the foreseeable future. Foreseeable future is the future which you can see. For example, today, tomorrow, after 6 months, after 1 year, this is foreseeable future. Unforeseeable future is after 20 years, after 30 years. You don't know what is going to happen. So it's option B, which is the right one.
And I expect most people will be expected to work until they're much older, as everyone's living much longer.
That's already happening.
That's already happening. So they are not doubtful about retiring will be late. So they said that's already happening. Okay, now please come to questions 25 to 30. What comment do the students make about each of the following jobs? So there are jobs and students are going to make about comments about these. Jobs are simple. When they give you half minute to read the questions, you don't need to read the jobs. Jobs are accountants, hairdressers, administrative staff and all that. Now comments are important. Option A, these jobs are likely to be at risk. Underline at risk jobs. Means these jobs will be threatened. Okay, there will not be any job like that. For example, people who used to work like a translator, those jobs are gone. Now we have Google Translation. So we can easily translate anything. Okay, so jobs at risk. At risk means in the future this field will not be available. Option B, their role has become more interesting in recent years. So role more interesting in recent years means now their role is more interesting. Option C, number of people working fallen dramatically. Just underline that. Number of people working fallen dramatically. Means for example, if 20,000 people were working, now only 1,000 are working. Dramatically. Dramatically means decrease, and that is really a dramatic decrease. Option D, this job will require more qualifications. For that they may use the word certification, degree, right? For example, for the job of accountant you will need more degrees and certificates and all that. Option E, higher disposable income has led to a huge increase in job. Higher income and increase in jobs. Higher income and increase in job. Option F. There is likely to be a significant rise in demand for this service. Significant rise for this service. This service can be agricultural workers, right? So just focus significant rise. And option G, both employment and productivity have risen. Employment and productivity increased. Now, first of all, we've got accountant's job. Let's see what do they say about that. And mostly what do they do? Another, tip. For the first question, they usually have options from the last few ones. And for the last questions, they usually have options from the first few ones. This is not a hard and fast rule, but sometimes they do that. For example, list of headings. In reading, we have list of headings. For first paragraph, they have the headings from the last ones. And for the last paragraph, they have the headings from the first ones. Okay, so let's see.
I enjoyed all that stuff on how technology has changed some jobs and how they're likely to change in the near future.
Yeah, incredible. Like accountants. You might think all the technological innovations would have put them out of a job, but in fact there are more of them than ever. They're still really in demand and have become far more efficient.
Right, that was amazing. 20 times more accountants in this country compared to the 19th century.
I know.
So, option F is likely to be significant rise in demand for this service. No. B is role has become more interesting in recent years. No. Focus again.
I enjoyed all that stuff on how technology has changed some jobs and how they're likely to change in the near future.
Yeah, incredible. Like accountants. You might think all the technological innovations would have put them out of a job, but in fact there are more of them than ever. They're still really in demand and...
Okay, there are more of them than ever and they are still in demand. So both employment and productivity have risen.
Become far more efficient.
They have become far more efficient. Now what is far more efficient? That is their productivity. They are in great demand. That is employment. So employment and productivity have risen. Correct answer for question number 25 is G. Question number 26, hairdressers.
I'd never have thought the demand for hairdressing would have gone up so much in the last 100 years. One hairdresser for every 287 people now, compared to one for over 1,500.
Yeah, because people's earning power has gone up so they can afford to spend more on personal services like that.
But technology hasn't changed the actual job that much.
No, they've got hairdryers, etc. But it's one job where you don't depend on a computer.
E, that's right. Higher disposable income has led to a huge increase in jobs. In the past, one hairdresser for 1,500 people, and now there are more, and it is because of people's income. Listen.
I'd never have thought the demand for hairdressing would have gone up so much in the last 100 years. One hairdresser for every 287 people now.
One hairdresser for 287 people now.
Compared to one for over 1,500.
In the past, one for over 1,500. Okay? So what is the reason?
Yeah, because people's earning power has gone up, so...
People's earning power has gone up. So that is higher disposable income has led to a huge increase in jobs. Okay, before that, maybe some people used to go once a month. Now people go to the saloon every week and all that. Next, we've got question number 27, administrative staff.
The kind of work that administrative staff do has changed enormously, thanks to technology. Even 20 years ago, there were secretaries doing dictation and typing.
Yes, really boring compared to these days, when they're given much more responsibility and higher status.
A lot of graduates go in for this kind of work now.
Okay, boring compared to these days. Now, if something was boring in the past, right, boring compared to these days, what does it mean? It means now it is interesting. If something was boring in the past, now it is interesting. So this is how they use the language. Correct answer is option B. Their role has become more interesting in recent years. Please listen again.
The kind of work that administrative staff do has changed enormously, thanks to technology. Even 20 years ago, there were secretaries doing dictation and typing.
Yes, really boring compared to these days.
Really boring compared to these days. So, in the past it was boring, now it is interesting. Question number 28, agricultural workers.
I think one reason why the origami activity...
Is in test number 3?
I'd expected there to be a much bigger change in the number of agricultural workers in the 19th century, but the 1871 census showed that roughly 25% of the population worked on the land.
Yeah, I'd have assumed it would be more than 50%. Now it's less than 0.2%.
I'd assume it would be more than 50%, but now it is not point some percent. Not point means 0 point. So what is the answer? C. Number of people working in this sector has fallen dramatically. For fallen dramatically, they use the word not point some percent. Okay, care workers. Question number 29.
What about care workers?
They barely existed in the 19th century, as people's lifespan was so much shorter. But now, of course, this sector will see huge growth.
Yeah, and it's hard enough to meet current demand.
That is F. There is likely to be a significant rise in demand for this sector, care workers. Last, bank clerks.
The future looks quite bleak for bank clerks. They've been in decline since ATMs were introduced in the 80s.
And technology will certainly make most of the jobs they do now redundant, I think.
I agree. Although the situation may change, it's very hard to predict what will happen.
Technology will make their jobs redundant. When some job is redundant means that profession is finished. So that is option A. These jobs are likely to be at risk. Okay. We call them at-risk jobs. Okay. All right. Now we've got part 4. And in part 4, there is a lecture. Okay. And question type is one word only. In part 1 and part 4, we have part 1, one word and or a number, and part 4, one word only. So if you miss your answers in part 3, part 4 gives you another opportunity to get back to the game, right? Now, topic is space traffic management. See that? Not air traffic, space traffic. As there are different, shuttles, they are going to the moon and all that. So there should be a traffic management system which is going to see where they are going. Like we have air traffic management, we have road traffic management, like this space traffic management. This is the topic of this lecture. In part 4, there is always a lecture. Space traffic management system. Then they use the word similar to air traffic control, right? And for satellites rather than planes. Now, would aim. Would aim means space traffic management system, STMS. Would aim to set up legal and dash ways. Now, 2 ways. One is legal and second, they will tell us in the audio. Underline the word ways. And write there another word, systems. Legal and dash systems. So answer will come after legal, right? And it will come before the synonym of ways. Now please listen and answer.
Part 4. You will hear part of a lecture for astronomy students about the need for a system to manage satellites and other objects orbiting the Earth.
In today's astronomy lecture, I'm going to talk about the need for a system to manage the movement of satellites and other objects in orbit around the Earth. In other words, a space traffic management system. We already have effective air traffic control systems that are used internationally to ensure that planes navigate our skies safely. Well, space traffic management is a similar concept, but focusing on the control of satellites. The aim of such a system would be to prevent the danger of collisions in space
between the objects in orbit around the Earth. In order to do this, we'd need to have a set of legal measures, and we'd also have to develop the technical systems to enable us to prevent such accidents. But
Okay, legal measures and technical systems. Now what is the answer? Technical. Okay, for measures and systems they use the word ways. So legal and technical. Correct answer is technical. Good job. Let's go on. Next they say problems in developing effective space traffic management. Satellites are now quite dash. Now quite. Underline the word now quite. For now they may use the word nowadays, these days. For quite they may use the word really, right? Or relatively. Okay, for example, you say this product is relatively expensive, or you can say dry fruit is relatively expensive these days. What does it mean? Dry fruit is now quite expensive. Dry fruit is relatively expensive these days. Same thing. So for quite, they may use the word relatively. For now, they can use the word these days, at present, today, anything like that. And therefore more widespread. So let's see.
So, why not? What are the problems in developing such a system? Well, for one thing, satellites are relatively cheap these days, compared with how they were in the past.
Satellites are relatively cheap these days, right? So, relatively cheap these days means now quite cheap. Question number 33, and therefore more widespread. For example, there are constellations. If you don't know the meaning of constellation, that doesn't matter at all. There are constellations made up of. Now answer will come after the synonym of made up of. Made up of means what they are made up of. Okay, made up of dash of satellites. Dash of satellites. Made up of and dash of satellites. For satellites, maybe they use the word satellites first and then they use the word them. Made up of thousands of them. Thousands of them means thousands of satellites. For made up of, they may use the word contain, consist of. Consist of, contain, right? Now, let's see.
Meaning that more people can afford to put them into space. So there's a lot more of them out there. And people aren't just launching single satellites, but whole constellations, consisting of thousands of them designed to work together. So
consisting of thousands of them designed to work together. So answer is thousands. Consisting of thousands of them. For satellites, you use the word them. Thousands of them. So answer is thousands. Plural. Not thousand. Thousands. Okay. Question number 34. At present, satellites are not required to transmit information to help their dash. Now, satellites are not required to transmit information to help. Now, for to help, they commonly use the word allow. To help or to allow something. Let's see.
But in spite of this, one thing you may be surprised to learn is that you can launch a satellite into space, and once it's out there, it doesn't have to send back any information to Earth to allow its identification.
To allow its identification. It doesn't need to require or send any information. Please listen again.
But in spite of this, one thing you may be surprised to learn is that you can launch a satellite into space, and once it's out there, it doesn't have to send back any information
It doesn't have to send back any information
to Earth to allow its identification.
to allow its identification. So, to help with their identification. Now, there are few systems for dash satellites. Few systems for dash satellites.
So while we have international systems for ensuring we know where the planes in our skies are, and to prevent them from colliding with one another, When it comes to the safety of satellites, at present we don't have anything like enough proper ways of tracking them. And it isn't just entire satellites that we need to consider.
Okay, we don't have proper ways of tracking them. Again, for satellites, they use the word them. Proper ways of tracking them means there are few systems for tracking them.
So while we have international systems for ensuring we know where the planes in our skies are, and to prevent them from colliding with one another, when it comes to the safety of satellites, at present we don't have anything like enough proper ways of tracking them.
Okay, we don't have proper ways of tracking them. So there are few systems for tracking. Next, question number 36. Operators may be unwilling to share details of satellites used for dash or commercial reasons. Two reasons. One is commercial and one they will tell us. Now answer will come with commercial reason. Okay.
A greater threat is the huge amount of space debris in orbit around the Earth, broken bits of satellite and junk from space stations and so on. And some of these are so small that they can be very hard to identify, but they can still be very dangerous. In addition, some operators may be unwilling to share information about the satellites they've launched. For example, a satellite may be designed for military purposes, or it may have been launched for commercial reasons, and the operators don't want competitors to have information about it.
Okay, answer is military purposes and then commercial. So answer is military. M-I-L-I-T-A-R-Y. Question number 37. It may be hard to collect details of the objects dash apostrophe S. Objects dash means related to object. Now this may happen that they use the name of the object, and then because instead of objects dash they use the word its. For example, objects size. For that they will use the word its size. Objects size, its size at a given time.
And even if the operators are willing to provide it, the information isn't easy to collect. Details are needed about the object itself, as well as about its location at a particular time.
Okay, details are needed about the object as well as its location. Its location means object's location. Correct answer is location. Well done. Question number 38. Scientists can only make a dash about where satellite will go. Now scientists can make what? Make something where a satellite would go.
And remember that a satellite isn't very big, and it's likely to be moving at thousands of kilometers an hour. We don't have any sensors that can constantly follow something moving so fast. So all that the scientists can do is to put forward a prediction concerning where the satellite is heading next.
Okay, so scientists can put forward a prediction where the satellite is heading next. So only make a and put forward a, and answer is prediction. Okay, question number 39. Solutions. Information should be combined in one. Very good tip. Whenever they use the word one before the blank, for one they commonly use the word single. One, single. Now whatever they say after single, that will be your answer.
So those are some of the problems that we're facing. Let's consider now some of the solutions that have been suggested. One key issue is the way in which information is dealt with. We need more information, but it also needs to be accessible at a global level. So we need to establish shared standards that we can all agree on for the way in which this information is presented. We already do this in other areas of science, so although this is a challenge, it's not an impossible task. Then as all this information's collected, it needs to be put together so it can be used. and that will involve creating a single database on which it can be entered.
Okay, that would involve creating a single database. Single database means one, and answer is database. Question number 40. Coordinated system must be designed to create. Underline the word to create. For create they use several words. Create, make, or they may use the word establish. To create dash, to establish dash in its users. So answer will come after the synonym of create.
As we continue to push forward new developments, congestion of the space environment is only going to increase. To cope with this, we need to develop a system like the one I've described to coordinate the work of the numerous spacecraft operators. But it's also essential that this system is one that establishes trust in the people that use it, both nationally and at a global level.
Okay, establishes trust. Create trust, establish trust. Correct answer is trust for that. Okay.